Her name was Valeria Messalina. She was just 15 when she became the wife of Emperor Claudius, a man twice her age, powerful yet weak, intelligent yet naive. To the public, she was the perfect bride, graceful, noble, and a promise of stability for a shaken empire. But beneath the crown of virtue, something else was growing. A hunger, not for love, but for power, control, and thrill. At first, everything looked normal. Messalina smiled at ceremonies, stood beside her husband during parades, and became the mother of his children. The people saw her as the symbol of purity. But behind the palace walls, servants whispered strange tales of midnight disguises, secret meetings, and dangerous games that no one dared to question. Some claimed she wandered the narrow streets of Rome in disguise, mingling with the commoners, testing how far she could go before someone recognized her. Others said she held private feasts that began as harmless celebrations, but ended in scenes no historian dared to describe. But here's the thing. The deeper you look into Messalina's story, the harder it becomes to tell what was real and what was rumor. Because history, especially Roman history, was written by those who feared her. What we do know is this: Messalina understood power better than anyone, and she learned early that secrets were worth more than gold. Inside the palace, she began weaving a silent web, one made of influence, manipulation, and blackmail. She surrounded herself with spies, servants, and lovers who reported every whisper that passed through the Senate. A single rumor could destroy a senator's reputation, and she knew exactly how to use it. Soon, the Empress became untouchable. Even generals bowed their heads in her presence, terrified of what she might know. Rome, for all its marble glory, was built on fear. But under Messalina, that fear changed shape. It became personal. She didn't need armies or weapons. She had humiliation, secrets, and charm. And that was enough to control an empire. One senator wrote that the palace had turned into a theater of shadows. Banquets were no longer about politics or diplomacy. They became tools of exposure. Noblemen and women left those feasts pale and silent, forever changed by what they had seen or been forced to do. Whether these tales were true or exaggerated, one thing is certain. Messalina's name spread across Rome like wildfire. She became both a fascination and a curse. A woman admired for her beauty and feared for her power. But power breeds enemies. And soon, her empire of secrets began to collapse under its own weight. By the year 48 CE, the whispers had turned into storms. Messalina had grown bolder, hosting extravagant celebrations in the name of Roman gods. But behind the incense and music, people saw something else: defiance. The line between empress and ruler had blurred. Then came the moment that stunned Rome. While Emperor Claudius was away, Messalina did the unthinkable. She married another man, not in secret, but in public, with priests, witnesses, and official vows. To many, it looked like madness. To others, it was a declaration of power, a message that she no longer feared anyone, not even the emperor himself. When word reached Claudius, he laughed. He thought it was another rumor, another piece of gossip about his unpredictable wife. But as evidence piled up, his laughter faded. The emperor, who had ignored her secrets for years, finally saw the truth. He returned to Rome furious. And for the first time, the walls that had protected Messalina began to crack. Her allies disappeared. Her servants fled. The senators she once controlled now whispered her name with disgust. Messalina ran to the palace gardens, the same gardens where she had once ruled over feasts and festivities. There, surrounded by fading flowers and the echoes of her past, she waited. When the soldiers found her, she begged for mercy. She pleaded for her children, for forgiveness, for one last chance. But Rome had no mercy left. Orders came from the emperor himself. And in the end, the woman who had terrified the empire faced silence. They say she tried to end her own life, but couldn't. A soldier did what she could not. And with that, the empire exhaled. But her story didn't end there. Claudius ordered every statue of her destroyed, every inscription erased. Her name was banned from Roman records, a punishment called damnatio memoria, the condemnation of memory. To the empire, she was supposed to vanish. But she didn't, because the more Rome tried to erase her, the more legendary she became. Centuries later, her ruins still whisper. The marble corridors of the Palatine still hold her ghost. Tourists walk through the broken arches, unaware that the ground they tread once heard the laughter of the woman who almost brought an empire to its knees. Some say she was a monster, a symbol of corruption and excess. Others say she was simply a woman trapped in a world ruled by men, forced to play the only game she could win, the game of power. Maybe both are true, because Messalina's story isn't just about scandal. It's about how power changes people, how secrets can rule stronger than armies, and how even the mightiest empire can crumble, not from invasion, but from the darkness that grows within its own walls. In the end, Rome fell many times, but few blows were as personal as the one delivered by its own Empress. So the next time you walk through the ruins of ancient Rome, remember this: the empire wasn't just built by soldiers and emperors. It was shaped and sometimes destroyed by the ones who knew their desires were more powerful than any sword. Messalina may have died forgotten, but her shadow still lingers. A reminder that sometimes the greatest wars are fought not on battlefields, but behind palace doors. If you think Messalina's tale was dark, wait until you hear about the emperor who bathed in blood to feel divine. Subscribe, because history's darkest secrets are far from over.